I'm not advocating for some guy running around like an idiot trying to separate every guy's head from their body when it's the purpose of hitting or body contact is to separate someone from the puck. Changer.
Well, let's go to that. So because kind of weaved in this maybe without like explicitly talking about it, it's going to be like there's like a toughness role. There's like you need to learn how to handle the violence part, or just like being brave, like facing the fact that you could get nobody wants to get hit ever, but you're just like doing it anyways, even though you're scared of it until it becomes like a normal thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well,
So go ahead.
this is where I think we're in a different world. Like I'm 55 and it's not that old, but it's not that young.
Mhm.
It's right in the
Yeah,
middle.
right in the middle. Yeah.
But and I'm not going to sit here and say I'm a tough guy by any means, but I grew up with it, so I love that part of the game. And I make no bones about it. I love that part of the game. I like to see someone that has nothing better to me than seeing someone that's willing to bleed a little bit but continue to play. Or have that toughness. That's what the game is to me. Um, but so as far as what was it you said, the fear or whatever,
Yeah, being
embracing it?
brave, like being able to handle it, even though you're scared of going and
Yeah.
having
So
contact.
I think one of the things that over the last 30, 40 years that hockey is in North America has done well to promote the skill is to get rid of the body checking, but I think it also hindered the skill as the kids got older. I think maybe a better move that they could have made, and maybe they'll never go back. I don't think is to at least have contact. Maybe not open ice hits, and maybe not, but when they're young,
You're
get
talking
used
like
to.
sooner than
Yeah,
before
yeah.
two?
Like
Yeah,
when you
right
play, you
away.
should
Yeah.
be able to bump a little bit, or have contact to know that you're aware, right? So that's something I believe in, right? So what happens now is we get to 14 years old, and I hear they're even looking at moving it up to later. So now we've said this before, but now you have testosterone gaps and size gaps and all these different things that make makes it different. So a kid that's 14 years old that has grown and has got facial hair and has a lot of testosterone, like all they talk about is, they say the words, "Oh, I gotta
Right.
kill this guy.
Yeah.
I'm gonna, you
Crush this
know,
guy. Yeah.
gonna crush this guy. I'm gonna, that's all they think about." So so you get the smaller guy or someone that is a little timid, or mom and dad's always telling, "Be careful, be careful, be careful, be careful." And you ever hear that all the time. You're always hearing, "Okay, I'm gonna get hurt." I always gotta be careful because my mom and dad say, "Be careful." It's violent. It's like there's so many kids that get in their first OHL fight and they talk about it. They talk about, "I want to, but I don't know." It's like it's 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 portrayed to be like so what's the word, like such a huge task, and like, wow, you're just really brave. It's like then they get in one, it's like, okay, it's not that bad. You know what I mean? So it's like the same with hitting. It's like once you get into the body checking, and after a few games of a couple guys running around, it does settle down, you know and so my next piece to that is like, it doesn't matter how violent or how rough the game is with the hitting and stuff. I always still believe that the kids that have played with their head up survive. Kids that have a little bit of defensive tactics survive. And it's one of these things that I don't know if you can necessarily teach someone to be brave.
Like I think you can,
Yeah,
but
yeah. I don't know if you'd necessarily, like, to a certain extent where it's like a warrior mentality. But I think you can teach. Um, well, I've seen kids that just they don't refuse to get involved in the contact stuff. So
I
it's
would
like,
agree. I think, but my experience at least with like when kids are scared of things that they don't necessarily have to be scared of. But even if it is something like contact where they have to be scared, like right now I'm thinking about the treadmill. It's like 95% of the kids will end up doing it, right? You get your 5% where it's like, nope, not doing it. But like, there's probably deeper issues there. But for most kids, I find like if you volunteer, like get them to volunteer themselves to try, then they normally overcome that kind of stuff. But I know just one thing because I know I'm gonna get or we're gonna get pushback because last time we talked about toughness, people they like fling like the research out because they've done like studies on like physicality at younger ages and whatever. And so I just before we did this episode, I looked up like just some not I didn't do like a deep dive in the research, but I just looked up like I looked for like 5 different studies that go one way or the other, and most of them indicate like the later you introduce body checking, the less injuries that occur, obviously, right? So if we start at U14, then obviously less kids will be getting hurt. But then beyond,
Before that,
yeah,
well, yeah, no
but then
shit.
right, but then beyond that, they've showed that having body checking earlier doesn't reduce injuries later either. So I've seen studies that
What
show
does
that.
that mean?
So okay, so like if you're 14 years old and you start body checking, or I'm 9 years old and I start body checking, when we're 16 years old, there's no reduction in injury either way. So like
So if you have it or don't, doesn't
it
matter.
doesn't matter.
Right.
So, but obviously, like there's limitations to that, which is my pushback to people's pushback, because I've seen what the studies say, I've seen like some of the research stuff, I've seen what they've looked at, and that's fine. But my obviously, if kids are hitting earlier, there's chances that they're going to get hurt earlier, right? And maybe it doesn't reduce risks of injury later by having it earlier. Maybe that's true. But what I'm looking at when I'm thinking of this question is how are the kids learning to play? That's what I'm thinking of, which is kind of in line with what you're saying. It's like when you're 9 and 10 and you can get bumped around a little bit, like you have to be paying attention more. And
It's a skill.
yeah, so it's like I just think long term, if we're not just talking about, because if there's no issue either way, it's like you're signing up for a sport where you can get hurt, man.
Well,
Like,
my issue is like, so my pushback is like, for me, I don't like it when people say that it shouldn't be as violent and shouldn't be as rough, because that's what I signed up for.
right,
I was
exactly.
4 when
Yeah.
I started playing
Yeah.
hockey, and I broke my collarbone that first year. I got a cut across the nose because I didn't get, um, we didn't have face masks, and I had a black eye because I took something across the head. I didn't like, so that's what I signed up for. I thought it was awesome. Not that I broke my collarbone was awesome, and I saw guys do that same thing, but that's the game I signed up for. So I don't like it when someone tells me that that's not what you're supposed to like. I like it. Like if someone boxes, you can't tell them you shouldn't do that because it's not good for you. It's like, but I want to. So for me, like I don't like any of the pushback. Like this is where I push back. It's like I don't like you telling me that the sport that I love is not the way you're supposed to love it.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
I agree.
Like
Well,
this,
and
because like now we've I don't want to say we babyfied everyone, because I think there's a lot of good steps in it. So you know what I mean? Like I think there's a lot of good steps that that there's more kids that get to play. So it's all good. But like for me, I want the contact it. And trust me, I'm not telling you I was the guy going out there running everybody. I was more of a skilled guy that played physical too, but that was the game to me. To me, it would be like watching flag football as opposed to the NFL. I like the NFL.
right. Well, and I think to me, it's like there's also this thing. It's like, oh, well, like we don't want kids getting hurt. We don't, and it's like it's okay if kids get hurt sometimes,
So I
man.
said I broke my collarbone,
Yeah, like
smacked my nose, and had a black eye when I
yeah,
was
like
4.
you
I
don't want
liked it.
yeah, you don't want kids like obviously you don't want kids like getting concussions and brain damage and like long-term impacts. Like obviously that's not what you want. But like if a kid hurts his wrist or he breaks a bone or whatever, it's like yeah, you don't want that to happen, but it's okay. Like they're okay. Like kids are resilient, man, and it helps if anything, it helps them just bounce back from things. Like that's not a bad thing if they're not putting themselves at any long-term risk of anything, right? So if there that's an element too. It's like by default everyone's like, "Well, we don't want the kids getting hurt." It's like kids need to get bumped around, man. It would do kids some good to like learn how to
That's
deal with
just
that kind of
my
stuff.
thing. Is then like that's what I don't like, is like what percentage of the people that play are making that decision. Because I know all the guys that I played enjoyed the physical contact of the game. We liked it. So why is anyone telling us that that's not the way it should be? Because we didn't care. Maybe we were stupid, but the guys I played with all loved the contact. It's part of the game.
Well, and then there's always like an extreme.
And why do the
reaction
kids? And why
to-
do the kids get so excited about it?
Oh man, you should see.
I know.
One of the things that the kids that I teach like to do most is wrestle. That's one of their favorite things to do is pull the mats out and wrestle. They love doing it, man. And that's what I'm saying. There's like a nature to it. There's a nature to it. But I just find there's always extreme reactions to this kind of stuff. So people will, as soon as there's one like freak thing that barely ever happens ever, it's like the reaction to it is, okay, everyone's bubble wrapped now. And it's like, okay, guys, like I get that this is horrible and you don't want that to happen. And there's reasonable things, right? Like keeping a tighter check on the neck guards, sure. Like that's a good thing that you can do, right? No, I don't really know what what the deal is with mouth guards either. Like I know like some people say that they're good, they help concussions. Some people say they don't help concussions. I don't actually know, but if they help concussions, yeah, keep a tighter check on the mouth guard. Like that's fun. Those things are reasonable. But you start to make radical changes, like rule changes to the game and stuff like that, and it's like now we might be changing the game a little bit, right? So, and this is where it's like you pull all the fighting out of hockey. It's like, okay, it's like, you guys need to be getting punched in the head. It's like, well, no, but like that's part of how the game goes. Like
It's
that's
the
how the game
history of the
goes,
game.
And then the same with hitting. It's like you obviously you take out the cheap shots, take out the blind sides, take out the slew foots, like all that stuff makes perfect sense. But it's like contact, like just because you hit a guy really hard doesn't make it a penalty. You know, it's like that's just part of it, man. And you don't want that doesn't mean you want guys to get hurt.
Yeah.
But anyways,
But of course, as you said, I'm not advocating for some guy running around like an idiot trying to separate every guy's head from their body when it's the purpose of hitting or body contact is to separate someone from the puck. That's
when
the essence
getting the
of it.
goons out, like the 1985 goon line that comes out, the slap shot. What are the guys named? The
The
brothers.
Hanson
Yeah, the
brothers.
Hanson brothers. Like it's like, yeah, we don't need that, right? So I'm hoping that's clear. I know I have to keep throwing the caveat, but I know like someone's gonna get mad at me and start yelling at me about it.
For me, I don't care
But
because that's is what it is.
yeah, what I'm saying is like people
I
are
know.
gonna take like, oh, we're saying that people should get hurt, and so it's like obviously
No.
that's not what we're saying. But
Yeah.
okay.